Your firewood pile is lying to you. Every morning you drag a log off that tarp-covered stack, knock the ice off it, wonder why your fire smokes and spits and dies before the room even gets warm, and you blame yourself, or the wood, or the stove. But the man who dug a hole in a hillside and stacked his split oak underground while his neighbors laughed, his wood came out of that earth-sheltered cache in February bone dry, splitting clean, and burning hot enough to hold a room at 68 degrees in a blizzard. He didn't have a moisture meter. He didn't have a shed kit from the big box store. He had something the entire modern firewood industry has spent 70 years quietly burying. Knowledge of how the earth itself manages heat and moisture better than any tarp, rack, or vinyl cover ever will. Here's where the story actually begins. Picture the Rocky Mountain West in 1805. Meriwether Lewis, leading the Corps of Discovery up the Missouri River toward the Marias, watches as French-Canadian hired hand Pierre Cruzat directs a team of men digging into high, dry ground on a bluff above the river. Cruzat has done this dozens of times. He knows exactly what he is doing. They cut a narrow opening, barely 20 inches across, and drive the shovel down 1 foot, then begin to widen the cavity underground into a bell-shaped pit 6 to 7 feet deep with sides that curve outward like the bottom of a kettle. Into this hole they lower beaver furs, lead bars, gunpowder, salt, coffee, ham and wool blankets, everything they cannot carry forward, everything that must survive a Rocky Mountain winter intact and dry. They cover the opening with fitted boards, heap soil back on top, scatter debris to disguise the site, and walk away. Months later, when the Corps returned downstream, those goods were still dry, still preserved, untouched by the frost, the snow melt, the ground saturation of spring. Lewis recorded the method in meticulous detail in his journals on June 9, 1805. And it was not his idea. Native American nations, including the Mandan, the Hidatsa, the Arikara, and the Pawnee, had been building bell-shaped cache pitchit inside their earth lodges for over 1,000 years. Some lodges contained as many as 9 storage pits, lined with grass and willow shoots, sunk more than 6 feet below grade. The earth was not just shelter, it was the storage system. It was the vault. And they understood something about what the ground does to temperature and moisture that we have completely, inexplicably forgotten. So here is the question that should be gnawing at you right now. If men whose survival literally depended on keeping supplies dry trusted the earth more than the air above it, what did they understand about this planet that we have chosen to ignore? Before we go further, drop a comment below and tell me this. What does your firewood look like in February? Is it dry and splitting clean, or are you fighting hissing logs and a fireplace full of smoke? Because what you are about to discover is going to change how you look at every piece of firewood advice you have ever been given. And most of it, I promise you, was wrong from the start. Let's talk about what you were told to do. The tarp, the rack, the woodshed with 4 walls. Maybe you bought a firewood cover from Amazon, $40, $50, $60 for a vinyl sheet with elastic edges. You drape it over your stack, congratulate yourself on being prepared, and then you check the wood in January and find white fuzz working its way into the grain. Or worse, that distinctive black mold, the one that smells like a wet basement and means the wood has already begun to decay from the inside. You think you did something wrong. You didn't cover it right, or you stacked it wrong, or you bought bad wood. Michigan State University Extension has been telling people for decades that firewood is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture just as readily as it releases it. And your tarp? Your tarp is a moisture trap. When the temperature drops at night, the warm air trapped under that vinyl cover condenses against the underside of the tarp and drips straight back onto your wood. The ground beneath your stack is exhaling moisture constantly. The tarp seals it in. You bought a product marketed as protection, and what you actually purchased was a terrarium for mold. A peer-reviewed study published in Science Direct in 2018, evaluating firewood storage methods across southern Europe, found that plastic sheet covering showed no meaningful benefit and was actively counterproductive compared to uncovered ventilated storage. And the woodshed with 4 walls? Same trap, different price tag. Without aggressive cross-ventilation, every gram of moisture evaporating from your wood raises the internal humidity of that shed until condensation forms on the rafters and drips back down. The Hearth.com forums are full of people describing their enclosed sheds as disgusting, full of black mold and white fungus, hoarfrost on everything in winter. The EPA's Burnwise program provides free shed plans that specify no more than 2 walls, a roof on posts. That's it. Every wall you add is a wall that traps the very moisture you're trying to drive out. Here is where it gets worse. The cost of all of this is not just inconvenience or aesthetics. The USDA Forest Products Laboratory has done the math on what moisture does to the energy content of firewood, and the numbers should make you angry. Every single pound of water locked inside your firewood consumes approximately 1,200 BTU. Just to evaporate, energy that travels up your chimney as steam instead of warming your home. At 20% moisture content, the standard most experts define as seasoned, a cord of hardwood delivers roughly 77% of its potential combustion energy as usable heat. That same wood at 50% moisture content, greenwood or re-wetted wood that was once dry, delivers barely 67% efficiency. You are burning roughly 30% less heat from the same volume of wood. In practical terms, a cord of properly dried northern red oak is energetically equivalent to 159 gallons of fuel oil, according to Penn State Extension. Burn that same cord wet, and you have just poured more than 50 gallons of heating oil straight onto your driveway. Gone. And the creosote problem multiplies the damage. Wet wood burns cold. Cold combustion produces incomplete chemical reactions that coat your chimney flue with thick, tarry deposits. The Chimney Safety Institute of America is explicit. Wet firewood is a leading cause of chimney fires. You did not buy bad wood. You bought good wood and then stored it in conditions designed, inadvertently, to make it fail. This is not your fault. Read that again. This is not your fault. The firewood rack industry, the tarp manufacturers, and the enclosed shed kit sellers are not evil people, but they are selling you products designed around the assumption that keeping rain off the top of your stack is the primary problem. It isn't. The primary problem is the vapor cycle, the constant exchange of humidity between wood, air, and ground, and not one of those products is engineered to address it. The system was built around the visible threat, not the invisible one. You were given those products, told to stack wood correctly, and then blamed implicitly through your own frustration when the wood didn't perform. The failure was in the advice, not in you. So now we go underground. I want you to understand exactly why this works, layer by layer, because the physics here are elegant and the history is extraordinary. Layer 1, the ground is a thermal battery. Soil has enormous thermal mass. It absorbs and releases heat so slowly that its temperature barely changes from season to season. At a depth of just 6 to 10 feet, the ground across most of North America maintains a stable temperature of roughly 45 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. It doesn't matter if it is minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit above ground or 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Below 10 feet, the temperature is essentially constant at around 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Think of it like a wine cellar that nobody had to build. The earth is already there, already holding that temperature, season after season, decade after decade. The Department of Energy confirms this in its guidance on earth-sheltered construction, and it is the foundational principle behind every root cellar ever dug in the history of agricultural civilization. That stable temperature is what firewood needs. Not cold, not heat, stability. Layer 2, temperature cycling is the real enemy of stored wood. When you store firewood above ground, it experiences every swing of ambient temperature. Freeze-thaw cycles physically crack wood cell walls open, creating pathways for moisture to enter. Daytime heat causes expansion. Nighttime cold causes contraction. Each cycle acts like a pump, drawing vapor deeper into the grain. Underground, those cycles vanish entirely. The wood sits in 52 degrees Fahrenheit air, steady and unchanging. The cells stop cycling. The vapor pump turns off. This is why mountain men's caches worked. It wasn't magic, it was physics. If you are finding this valuable, hit the like button now, because this is the part most firewood guides never tell you. Layer 3, what about underground moisture? This is the objection that sounds fatal and isn't. Once you understand the distinction between raw underground humidity and a properly engineered underground space. A natural cave or an unfinished root cellar runs at 80 to 95% humidity, and yes, that would rot your wood, but a finished, engineered earth shelter with a gravel base, a French drain to channel groundwater away, a 6 mil polyethylene vapor barrier across the floor and lower walls, and a 2-vent ventilation system that allows controlled air exchange produces humidity levels in the 50 to 60% range for the majority of the time. Research on earth-sheltered structures documented internal daily temperature variation of just over 1 degree Celsius in winter, compared to 8 degrees Celsius outdoors, with relative humidity staying in that 50 to 60% band for nearly 3/4 of the measured period. That is a more stable storage environment than any above-ground shed in any climate with real winters. And here is the crucial distinction that changes everything. Underground earth shelter storage is not for green wood. You are not drying wood underground. You are preserving already seasoned wood, wood you have dried correctly in the open air first, in conditions that will never allow it to re-wet, never allow it to cycle, never allow it to become the hissing, smoking, creosote-producing failure that February firewood usually becomes. Layer 4. The ventilation architecture. 2 vents are essential and they must be positioned deliberately. 1 vent sits low, near the floor. This is your cold air intake. 1 vent sits high, near the ceiling. This is your warm air exhaust. As the ground-tempered air inside the shelter is slightly warmer than the winter air outside, a slow, natural convection current circulates through the space, carrying away any vapor that the wood releases without creating the turbulent conditions that would pull outside humidity in. It is passive, no electricity, no fan, no subscription. It works because warm air rises. That is the entire mechanism. Now let's talk about why we abandoned all of this. We didn't forget this knowledge by accident. We traded it away deliberately, and we paid a price that we're still paying. 3 things happened in relatively quick succession through the middle of the 20th century. First, cheap fossil fuels made wood heating itself seem obsolete. Why dig a cache pit and engineer a hillside shelter when you could flip a thermostat? The labor involved in traditional wood culture became economically irrational. Second, the lumber and construction industry produced standardized shed kits that could be flat-packed and shipped to anyone. No earthwork, no grading, no French drains, just 4 walls and a roof that looked like proper storage because it looked like a building. Third, the mass production of polyethylene tarps gave every hardware store a $7 solution to the question of how to protect a woodpile, and the product worked well enough on calm, dry days that nobody looked too hard at what it was doing the rest of the time. Each of these developments solved a visible problem cheaply. None of them solved the invisible problem of the vapor cycle. When your wood still smoked and sputtered despite your tarp, your rack, and your enclosed shed, the advice was always to season longer, buy better wood, check your chimney. No one suggested questioning whether the storage system itself was the failure. The dependency that was created is expensive, ongoing, and entirely unnecessary. You buy more tarps when the old ones tear. You buy shed kits when tarps stop working. You pay chimney sweeps to remove the creosote that wet wood deposits. The hidden costs of bad storage advice are real, and they compound every single winter. So let's talk about what you can actually do. 3 options, ordered from easiest to most involved, and each one moves you toward a better outcome than what you are almost certainly doing right now. Option 1, the easiest, is to change your stacking architecture and your covering philosophy immediately. Pull the tarp off your existing pile. Find the south-facing side of your property, the side that gets the most direct winter sun, and relocate your stack there. Elevate the bottom course 4 to 6 inches off the ground on pressure-treated sleepers or concrete blocks, never on wooden pallets that will harbor beetles and termites. Stack with bark side up on the top course only, angled slightly to shed rain like a roof. Cover only the top 18 inches of the pile with a breathable covering, canvas not vinyl, or simply a piece of corrugated metal roofing weighted at the edges. Leave the sides completely open. Allow wind to move freely through the stack at all times. This alone will outperform a full tarp cover in every climate that gets real winter weather. It costs nothing if you have metal roofing scraps. If you do not, it costs at most $30. Option 2, intermediate. Build a properly ventilated open front shelter against a hillside or embankment, even a shallow one. You need only a back wall set into the slope, a roof with a 12-inch overhang, and 2 open sides. If you can set the back wall of that shelter into even 2 feet of earthen slope, you gain immediate thermal benefits on that wall surface. The floor should be elevated gravel. 2 inches of compacted gravel allows air circulation beneath the lowest course and prevents ground moisture from wicking upward. Total material cost for a 10-foot run of this structure, built from pressure-treated lumber and corrugated metal roofing, runs roughly $150 to $200. It will outperform any fully enclosed shed and any commercial firewood storage product on the market, and it will last 20 years. Option 3 for the committed, a true earth-sheltered wood cache. This is the full mountain man approach, updated for the 21st century. Dig into a dry hillside, high ground away from drainage paths, ideally facing north to minimize solar heating of the shelter entrance. Excavate a space 6 feet deep, 8 to 10 feet wide, and as long as your annual wood consumption requires. Line the floor with a 6mm polyethylene vapor barrier under 4 inches of compacted gravel. Frame the walls with pressure-treated lumber and face the interior with galvanized wire mesh to allow air circulation away from the walls. Install a low vent at floor level and a high vent at ceiling level, both fitted with rodent-proof mesh covers. Frame and insulate the entrance door to minimize thermal bridging. Stack your already seasoned firewood inside on elevated sleepers. Cover the structure with at least 18 inches of compacted earth on the roof and sides. What you now have is a storage environment that maintains stable temperature year-round, humidity in the livable range, and zero vulnerability to the surface weather events that destroy above-ground storage in the hardest months of the year, such as blizzards, freezing rain, and ice storms. Your wood will be as dry pulling it out in February as it was going in the previous spring. To identify whether your current wood is already compromised, pick up a split piece and knock 2 pieces together. Dry wood sounds like a crack, sharp, hollow, and resonant. Wet wood sounds like a thud, dull, dead, and absorbed. If your wood thuds in January, you already know the answer. A cheap moisture meter, $15 to $20, will confirm it. Target 20% moisture content or below before burning. Above 25%, you are heating your chimney, not your home. Pierre Cruzat, the man who taught Meriwether Lewis to build a cache in the Montana wilderness in the summer of 1805, was not a primitive. He was an engineer working with the most reliable, most durable, and most energy-efficient storage system on the planet. He understood something the firewood industry will not put on a product label: that the earth, managed correctly, is a better vault than anything made of vinyl or plywood or galvanized steel. The knowledge was not lost. It was traded away, exchanged for convenience, for standardization, for products that looked like solutions, while the real solution was always 3 feet below ground. If this channel is giving you back knowledge that the modern market buried, subscribe now. We are digging up the methods, the traditions, and the forgotten sciences that built civilizations before anyone thought to put them in a box and sell them back to you. Tell us in the comments, what do you want us to investigate next? What else have you been sold that you are starting to suspect was broken by design?